Ladies and gentlemen, things are heating up in Syria. Israel is taking action. Israel is not giving up. Damascus is being bombed. Yes, things are not going well in Syria. Israel does not want to rest. Israel continues to bomb. And we don't really know what Israel is ultimately seeking. But it's a logical continuation of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran, which finds itself on the side of Damascus. Yes, Israel is in the process of leveling Syria. Yes. And we know that very recently, the new head of the Syrian executive almost signed a protection agreement with the United States of America. Donald Trump even lifted the restrictions, the sanctions on Syria, even though Donald Trump's staunch ally is Israel. So why does Israel keep bombing Syria? This is what I don't understand. But already, before delving into the details of the nature of the strikes and the damage currently taking place, allow me to remind you why Israel is striking Syria, why it is striking Damascus. Israel regularly carries out airstrikes in Syria, including in Damascus, claiming that it aims to prevent Iran from strengthening its military presence and that of its allies, such as the Lebanese Hezbollah, near the Israeli border. So Israel is fighting against Iran on another territory, using a different method, according to the initial information we have. These military operations are an integral part of a broader strategic approach that Israel officially refers to as the campaign between the walls, which is known as MB Mabam in Hebrew, effectively translating to campaign between the walls. This campaign aims to counter the transfer of advanced weapons and the manufacturing of precision missiles that could threaten Israel. So, this is the reason given, at least the initial reasons given by Israel, which lead Israel to strike Damascus, to strike Syria. So, that means it's the continuation of the fight against Iran. Yes. And Israel, that is to say, wants to establish itself as the leader in the region. Any entity that threatens Israel, Israel must bomb. Israel is opening up fronts everywhere. So let's go a bit deeper. And before we continue, I ask you to share the video conference. Share it as much as possible. Give it lots of likes. And don't forget to leave your various opinions in the comments. Give it lots of likes. And above all, subscribe if this is your first time here on the platform for Awakening Consciousness. So, what's happening? Israel had recently threatened to intensify its strikes against Syrian government forces if they did not leave the predominantly Druze city, the city of Sueda. Since this Wednesday, the Hebrew state has bombed the headquarters of the Syrian army in Damascus. They bombed the general's headquarters. They are being asked to leave. Yes. By what right do they ask a government army to leave? The Israeli army has also promised to increase the intensity of its responses against the regime if the message is not understood. Here is what the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, said, demanding that the Syrian authorities leave the Druze of Sueda alone. In other words, they clearly want this locality to be under their control. I really don't understand, but I will eventually figure it out. I really don't understand why Israel insists on bombing. That is, Israel just bombs everything it sees. Israel bombs. Israel is making life impossible in the region. I don't know. So, the minister said this: Israel will not abandon the Druze in Syria and will enforce the policy of demilitarization in the south of the country, which was announced after the fall of former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in December. This is what the minister stated. At the very moment we are speaking, there are nearly 250 dead in just 3 days. It must be said that they've been at it for 3 days already. The strikes are continuing. I really didn't want to talk about it, but things are getting very serious on that front. Yes, and Iran is starting to get involved indirectly. And if Iran is starting to get involved indirectly, what does that mean we're witnessing? It's the blocs, the allies, that are starting to wake up. But this time, with a bit of complexity because Syria is now an ally of the United States of America. Yes, there was that turnaround. So Syria is supposed to be calm since we've seen the new Syrian leader who was even received by Donald Trump. And there you have it. They understood each other. The sanctions were lifted, the decrees were signed, but then why does Israel keep going? So the Israeli army announced that it had struck the entrance to the Syrian army headquarters in Damascus. Syrian state television reported that 2 people were injured in the center of the capital without specifying the exact location. The capital itself was hit. So the IDF also announced that is the Israeli army that it is reinforcing its troops at the Syrian border and said it has identified dozens of suspects who were trying to cross the border from Syria. So in this very tense area called Sueda, where the authorities declared a ceasefire on Tuesday that was not respected. 2 bodies too. Yes. So we heard gunfire after that so-called ceasefire. And on Wednesday morning, about 30 bodies were lying in the streets. So in short, things are not going well. Things are really not going well. 21 civilians were summarily sent to their eternal rest. So, well, nothing is going well on the Syrian side. Israel keeps striking, and we've learned that Donald Trump supposedly told Netanyahu to stop his strikes on Syria, but that was yesterday. Yesterday, we learned this, but it didn't help to ease the tensions. Even this morning, the strikes are continuing in full force. So, the situation is very complicated, and we will keep following the news on this front. Whatever comes out of this, we'll come back to give you more details. So thank you, everyone. I'll be back with more news a little later. That was the voice of your humble servant, the one and only Samurai.